Your respected Thai, we know you are there and we are happy. Thank you, dear Katie. Just about ready to cry and go home now. Sangha strong. Strong in the face of tragedy, resilient in the face of tragedy. What does it mean to be Sangha strong? What does it mean to be resilient in the face of tragedy? It's what it's like to be in the midst of the Sangha. And it's what it's like to be in the midst of the Sangha. The flow and the collective energy of the Sangha. That's what it's like to be Sangha strong. It's to remember, it's to know what we were like in the past, to know what we are like in the present, and to know what we will be like in the future. Sangha strong means that we have already been practicing for a really long time. We have already been checking off the columns for a really long time. So that in the face of tragedy, we would have already known, we would have already seen the seeds that we have been germinating, that we have been tilling. And also we know the seeds that the Sangha body, the Sangha Kaya, have been planting for a really long time. We never forget the Sangha body, the wise ones, the awakened one, the sages, the Buddhas, all the Buddhas, and they all weren't Buddhist. The Sangha Kaya, ancient lineages, our ancestral tribes. So when we practice Sangha strong in the face of what's existing in our garden bed today, we don't get weary. We don't get tired when we are resting in the Sangha body, the Sangha Kaya of a really long time. Knowing that we have been uprooting seeds, when those seeds in our storehouse consciousness will cease to exist. If they cease to exist, that last breath that I just breathed out, then it won't exist in my next in breath, which means in the next out breath, I won't be surprised when the weeds start to pop up in the garden bed of the Sangha. And the thing is, we think sometimes that the Sangha is in our little garden bed, in our little organic garden bed. And then we look over at the other garden beds that we identify as non-organic. And the judging mind the three complexes of inferiority, superiority, and equality arise in the mind consciousness. And it's like, remember when we learned that secondhand smoke kills? And we look over in the garden bed and we say, oh, that's a non-organic garden bed. But what we don't realize is that there's no separation between the two. So as we plant seeds in our garden and the wind comes and the pollinators come and they don't discriminate between organic and non-organic. So when the pollinator goes to the garden bed, when the earthworm turns up the soil, when the wind blows the seeds of that which is non-organic into organic, and that which is organic into the non-organic garden bed. So when the Sangha practices like that, when we have the embodiment of the true Sangha beyond that which is arising in front of us, but for a really long time. What was I like in the past? What am I like in the present? We look outside at the garden bed with a discriminating mind. I like this, I don't like that. This is okay. I want this, I want that. I don't want this, I don't want that. Well, Sangha Strong, the time for that was when we were sloughing through the ovum to arrive. That's when we should have been worried about what was planted in our garden. But we remember that's why we came forth. We came forth for this. The Sangha was made for these times. So when we have a gift and an opportunity to practice a day of mindfulness, are you practicing for what's in our garden beds? Are you practicing diligently, wholeheartedly, knowing that we've already been checking off the columns, that now is the time to be in the garden in all of its ways with a mind that does not discriminate? That is the beloved community. That is the Sangha that rises above the vibration, that practices walking steps, mindful steps. Today, we practice mindful steps all across the nation. That's Sangha Strong. Never forget it. All across the nation, deep relaxation. All across the world, all across the cosmos, eating meditation, sitting meditation. I remember when Ty would talk about walking meditation, and he would talk about enjoying the nature and taking a stop to contemplate that which was beautiful. And Ty would say, sometimes he would just stop in the walking meditation and turn around and look at the Sangha. And he would say, the Sangha is so beautiful. The Sangha is so beautiful. And the Sangha body is not the individual body, it's the collective body. It's the body of our nation. It's the body of the world. So when we breathe, when we are Sangha strong, the nation is Sangha strong. The world is Sangha strong. And sometimes you just need to stop and look back at the Sangha. Look back at the Sangha. How far can you look back at the Sangha? That's Sangha strong. That's Sangha now. That's Sangha in the future. And that's where we get the energy to keep going. When one is in the Sangha is tired, you don't need to say, I'm tired. The Sangha knows one is tired. When the Sangha can't breathe, the Sangha Kaya, the cosmos, knows that the Sangha can't breathe. Dear ones, I'm holding up this sunflower that was given to me at our Cultivating Seeds of Stillness retreat from some dear beloved community members and friends. And so today I'm offering the merit of this teaching and this practice to Mama Sunshine. And I have this sunflower here to remind me of how strong we are, how strong the Sangha breath is. So when the Sangha can't breathe, the Sangha knows one cannot breathe. And it's like the birds in the flock and the one at the front that's tired in the face of trauma just takes in the midst of the Sangha, and moves to the back. And then that other bird moves to the front, carrying the Sangha forward. And it's like this. And we get still, we meditate so we can never forget to remember we were made for these times. We accept what's in the garden. And we move through that knowing we have uprooted those seeds within this mind consciousness, within this storehouse consciousness. That which I do not wish to see no longer exists within this self. That's the work. Thank you for playing out the real. Thank you for showing up on my feed and saying, that's where you need to go. Oh, you dislike that? You see that as separate? You see that as over there? The world that we see through these six sense bases and through the storehouse consciousness that arises through the manas consciousness into the mind consciousness, out through the mouth and through the actions of body, speech, and mind. Are we liking and disliking or rising above in the strength of being Sangha strong? And is that Sangha strong existing and extending beyond our lineages, beyond our traditions, beyond our Sanghas, the beloved community? When one has had many broken bones and a broken leg and hasn't been able to walk, that one moves to the flow of the energy of the Sangha, and the Sangha carries us forth. When the Sangha is feeling like we just need to close off from the ways of the world, the Sangha keeps going. The Sangha stays strong, and it has room for all of us in the midst of the Sangha. That's what it means to be Sangha strong, to never forget, to stay and rise above the vibration that sees through these eyes, through these six sense bases. How I experience the world is what I care for, what I tend, what we tend, what the Sangha tends, what the Sangha embodies. Are you embodying that? Can you look to the Sangha and see it being embodied? Can you look to the Sangha and have that reflected to you? That is our work. I have a little teaching that I wish to share. And I didn't write the sutta number down, so we'll have to do that after. But here the Buddha is essentially talking to the Sangha. And there's so much here that he's offering us. And if we listen with an open mind, we can see that it's the gift right here and right now. So he says, I hope you're living in harmony, appreciating each other without quarreling, blending like milk and water, and regarding each other with kindly eyes. With kindly eyes. I vow to look into the eyes of all beings with compassion. All beings. I say, look at your neighbor and say, yes, even those beings. Even those beings. You know what? Especially more for those beings. You see where the discrimination in the mind is? That's where we need to be working. That's the rub of effacement. If the mind consciousness was able to grasp what I was just sharing about, yes, even those beings, that's the discrimination part. That's what's in our garden bed right now. That's what we're seeing. That's what we need to be undoing and unknowing right there. That's the work. And then so the Sangha says, yes, sir, we are living in harmony. But how do you live this way? He says. In this case, sir, I think I'm fortunate, so very fortunate, to live together with spiritual companions such as these. Spiritual companions such as the Sangha. Very fortunate. I consistently treat these venerables, all as venerables, treat all as venerables, with kindness by way of body, speech, and mind, both in public and in private. What does that mean? It means both in public and in private, but it also means in here and out here in body, speech, and mind. So that which is private, I'm also taking care of that which is private. Because if it exists in the mind consciousness, it's going to exist in the future. So be careful about the garden bed that we're judging. We have to be careful. And then the Venerables Nandaya and Kambila spoke likewise, and they added, that's how we live in harmony, appreciating each other without quarreling, blending like milk and water, and regarding each other with kindly eyes. Good, good, Anuruddha and friends. I hope you're living diligent. I hope you're living diligent. I hope you're living keen and resolute. Is the Sangha living diligently and keen and resolute? But how do you live this way? In this case, sir, whoever returns first from alms round, prepares the seats and puts out the drinking water and the rubbish in the bin. If there's anything left over, whoever returns last eats if they like. Otherwise, they throw it out where there is little that grows or drop it into water that has no living creatures. Then they put away the seats, the drinking water and the rubbish in the bin, and sweep away the refectory. If someone sees that a pot of water for washing, drinking, or the toilet is empty, they set it up. If he can't do it, he summons another with a wave of the hand, and they set it up by lending each other a hand to lift. But we do not break into speech for that reason alone. See, what the practice that the Buddha is giving us is to have that stillness in the practice of our day of mindfulness. When we go through the line and we're serving the line and we have the thoughts arise and then the speech that comes out of the mouth, or are we serving our food with in stillness? Just this. Just this. When someone sneezes, do we have to say something in response? Or do we know that the Sangha sneezes? If we forgot something, you just forget something. But a lot of times the mind slips up. So we have to remind each other to be resolute, keen, and diligent in the Sangha. Because when we go out into the world, we're going to need that practice when we're together. So that's what it means to be Sangha strong. We have to hold each other accountable as spiritual friends. That's how we live diligently, keen, and resolute. Good, Anuruddha. But as you live this way, have you achieved any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones? A comfortable meditation. How could we not, sir? Whenever we want, that's the word, whenever we want, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, we enter and we remain in the first absorption, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion, while placing the mind and keeping it connected. Just this. Just this breath. Already knowing we've been practicing for a really long time. Whenever we want, placing the mind and keeping it connected are still, we enter and remain in the absorption. This bliss born of immersion with internal clarity and mind at one without placing the mind and keeping it connected. This is another distinction we have achieved for going beyond and stilling that meditation. With the fading away of rapture, we enter and remain in the third absorption, where we meditate with equanimity, mindful and aware, personally experiencing the bliss of which the noble ones declare, equanimous and mindful. Another superhuman distinction. Are you giving up the pleasure and pain and the ending of former happiness and sadness? We enter and we remain in the fourth absorption, without pleasure or pain, with pure equanimity and mindfulness. This is another superhuman distinction. Good, good, Anuruddha. We want to go totally beyond dimensions of infinite space, aware that consciousness is infinite. We enter and remain in the dimension of infinite consciousness, going totally beyond the dimension of infinite consciousness. That consciousness which is infinite, going beyond that which is infinite. Good, good, Anuruddha. Good, good, Anuruddha. Then the Buddha educated, encouraged, fired up, and inspired the venerables with a Dhamma talk. After that, which he got up from his seat and he left. So when we remember the wise ones, the sages, our venerable master, Thich Nhat Hanh, when we remember the Sangha strong, this is how we stay resilient with the mind connected in the face of this present moment, its tragedies, and this moment and its tragedies, and this moment and its tragedies in the body of the Sangha and the Sangha Kaya.